Yo, what's up? It's Coach Nick Money, and today we're going to go over a very interesting topic, and I think it's a very important topic. And because of that, I took notes, and I'm going to reference the notes because I really want to make sure that I give you a lot of information that's really going to be helpful. I believe it is going to be helpful. And once again, I'm not an expert in trading. This is not financial advice. I'm telling you what works for me. Please, you do you, okay? So the topic that we're going to go over is how to overcome FOMO, the fear of missing out. We've all been there. That trade that we saw and we got in too late, it was running, and we're like, wait a minute, this thing's going to keep running, and we jump in, or we got out too early, and we end up basically losing on the position, and it makes you feel so bad. Doubles. It makes you feel so bad.
Makes you feel terrible.
But if it goes good, you feel so good. But if FOMO can clean you out. So we're going to discuss that topic, and we're going to utilize cognitive behavioral strategies. Cognitive behavioral strategies, not just, words, but actual strategies to help develop skill sets that can help you overcome FOMO and losing a lot of money by making big mistakes, okay? And this is super important as day traders because there are opportunities that pop up all the time when you're day trading because the activity is so rapid. It's so rapid pace, and it's coming at you a lot faster than with swing trades and with long-term trades. So the possibility of falling victim to FOMO is much, much greater. So let's dig right into it. The strategy is called exposure strategy. It's an exposure strategy where you're going to basically expose yourself to a certain mindset and associate it with certain behavior so that you can overcome that behavior. It's the type of strategy that's used to basically change certain behaviors like post-traumatic stress disorder in professionals. Now, I'm certainly not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not telling you how to fix things in that nature. I'm just using these particular strategies and applying it to the stock market and how it helps me to develop rules and viewpoints pertaining to day trading that I try to stick to so that I don't fall victim to FOMO. Now, that being said, do I fall victim to FOMO? Everybody's human, right? We're not robots. We're not artificial intelligence. We're humans and we make mistakes, but the key is to dust yourself off, take it as a learning experience, and learn from it and try to build upon that so that that particular mistake doesn't happen and you're less likely to lose out to FOMO. Now, one of the quotes that I wanted to make, I don't know who said it, but it was a pretty powerful quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it. You need to basically love something more than the habit that you're looking to break in order to break that habit. Think about that. So, for example, if you're concerned about your profit and loss statement every single day while you're day trading, and you're focusing on that, and you feel great when your profits are up, but you feel like complete dirt when your profits are low, you're losing, and that's what you're focusing on, it's going to basically create a negative loop for you, right? So the better approach is to focus on getting better and learning. What did you learn from a particular transaction? What did you learn when you made a lot of money? What did you learn when you lost a lot of money? Okay, but now let's get into more nitty-gritty and concentrate on specific strategies, relaxation strategies, and implementing these relaxation strategies to change negative thought so that you can have a much more clear mindset when you're trading. Let me give you specific examples. How many times have we entered into transactions, right? We've entered into a trade too late. We saw the stock running, and we're like, I think I should get into it. And then we don't get into it, and it's still running. And we're like, you know what? Man, I missed it. I can't miss out. It's fear of missing out. I'm going to jump in now. But meanwhile, the volume is dipping, the momentum is dipping, and you're getting in too late, and now you've become a bag holder. And you end up losing money on it, and now you got to flatten out your position right away because you don't want to lose all your money, and you take a huge hit, and you feel like complete garbage. You're not happy with yourself. You feel like a numbskull. You feel like a dummy. And now you're reinforcing all of this negative behavior. Why? Because you had fear of missing out with the emphasis on the word fear. So what you're doing is you're in essence triggering a flight or fight response over an individual transaction that occurred. Think about that, right? So instead of making cognitive processes through the frontal part of your brain, You're going into a much more primordial part of your brain where you have less perception, less judgment, back part of your head, much more primal, and you're not making as clear of a decision because you've basically went into that flight or fight response. Think about that. That's really what's happening. If you fear missing out, the main emphasis is the fear. So what you need to do is you have to start looking at situations like fear of missing out in different ways. And one way to do that is to first train yourself to start being more relaxed. How do you do that? One of the things that you could do is you can close your eyes and think of peaceful settings like this, or whatever turns you on. Maybe it's an alpine skiing resort. Maybe it's a beach. Maybe it's the Mojave Desert. Whatever turns you on, focus on concentrating on things that calm you down and make you feel good, right? And concentrate on your breathing. Think about your breathing, but it goes beyond that, right? It's not just a matter of breathing. It's a matter of training yourself to be calm, right? So that's the first step. Get into the habit of training oneself to be tranquil and calm by visualization. Okay? This is basically called relaxation through visualization. Okay? There's actually a technical term for it because this is based on cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Then what you want to do is the second part. You want to create a hierarchy of what causes that fear and anxiety. And since we're specifically talking about day trading and trading stocks, it's going to be about day trading or stocks, right? So one of the things might be, on the lower end of the totem pole, the fear of missing out on a particular transaction where you can make money, right? So that might be one fear. Another fear might be the fear of staying in a transaction too long, and all of a sudden the transaction flushes and your heart sinks because now you thought the stock was going to go up, but it starts to completely tank and you can't get out of that position fast enough and you're just making a massive loss. Or maybe even worse on the hierarchy scale is a situation where you put a huge trade in and all of a sudden the internet goes off and you have no internet to see what's going on with your trade. You don't know if your trade's going up, down, sideways. You have no idea what's going on, and you're in a complete panic. So to me, that would be probably one of the worst anxieties that I could have, having a failure of my equipment while I'm in a trade, right? So now you've created a situation where you have things that seriously are upsetting and cause fear. What you want to do is you want to start with the least scary thing, the least fearful thing. In the example that we just gave, it was the example of missing out on a particular trade, getting in too late on a particular trade. And what you want to do is you want to visualize that feeling, that negative feeling that's beating you up because you missed out on that trade and you're putting yourself into a negative light with that. And what you want to start doing is you want to start visualizing that positive image that you have in your mind. Maybe it's this pond. We're here. You might want to use this. Maybe it's the beach. Maybe it's the Mojave Desert. Maybe it's an alpine skiing resort. Whatever it is, but you want to create an association between the negative, which is the fear of missing out on a trade, not catching it on its way up, and visualizing the positive. And by doing that, what you do is you're completely disarming the particular negative thought because you're associating positive thoughts with it. And what you're doing is you're taking the impulsive back part of your head that's working through fear and flight, and you're helping your brain go more into the frontal part of your head, and you're being more positive, more focused, more calculated, and more predictive and analytical in your decision making with what you're doing. And you keep doing this over and over again. You start with the less fearful situation, right? And then move up to the next one, which would be a situation where the stock's flushing down, let's say, in the example we just gave. And you work on that one for a period of time, and you visualize. And then finally, let's say your computer's shutting down after a massive transaction being placed in and not knowing what's going on. And what ends up happening is you start training your brain to be more analytical rather than fearful and acting in a flight or fight response, and being less analytical and more likely to make a mistake.
Primal.
That's it.
Basically, the way you put it is normally the part of your brain that makes the decisions is the cognitive cortex. When you are in a fight or flight response, the blood flow goes from your cognitive cortex, which is the front part of your brain, all the way to the back part of your brain, which is the motors, which activates the more primal urge to basically
better said,
act instead of think.
Impulsively.
Impulsive.
Right? So here's the bottom line, Doubles, right? You want to make your primary focus not your profit and loss on a daily basis, even though the profit and loss is super important, okay? But if you're thinking about the profit and loss every single moment of your trading career, rather than concentrating on learning and learning from mistakes, because in order to improve, you have to learn from your successes and from your mistakes. And a lot of times the bigger benefits come from learning from mistakes. You're going to have a much better situation. You have to take into consideration that losses on a profit and loss situation is kind of like a speed bump or a pothole on a highway. And your trading long term and your ability to learn long term and gather knowledge through videos like this and through just experience and other types of learning processes ultimately are going to make you a better trader, a more confident trader, and you're just going to be much better. It's kind of like starting out as a white belt in martial arts and constantly training and practicing and going over techniques and strategies and doing kumite and so on and so forth until you become a black belt. And even then, you're still learning. You're always learning and you're always improving. And if you concentrate on the learning component and becoming better rather than the profit and loss, more likely than not, you're going to have a lot more profit than loss.
It's a game of inches, not miles.
Absolutely. It's Coach Nick and DBL Nicks. This might be what you want to think about when you're doing the cognitive behavioral strategy that we talked about. We're out of here. We're going to let you check it out for a couple of seconds before we go. Peace out. Enjoy.